Hello and welcome to Circular Shift 2020, the annual event of the Cradle to Cradle Products Innovation Institute. We are streaming live from Amsterdam today, and we are glad that you're joining us virtually from across the world. At the Cradle to Cradle Products Innovation Institute, we are dedicated to powering innovation for circular economy through products that have a positive impact on people and planet. Through the Cradle to Cradle Certified Products Program, we set the global standard for products that are safe, circular, and responsibly made. A future-proof circular economy starts with the selection of chemicals and materials that protect human health and the environment and have a positive impact on future product use and cycling. What does it mean to innovate for safe ingredients and materials? And how is chemistry linked to other parts of a circular system? How do we make a safe, then circular future a reality? We will discuss these questions in today's panel session dedicated to material health, the key to unlocking the circular economy. I'm joined for this conversation by three pioneering companies from the Cradle to Cradle certified community. Ralf Kattanek, Group Vice President Textiles at CHT. Dorien van der Weele, Manager Sustainability at Mosa. And Hans Steisslinger, Circular Economy Consultant to Ada Cosmetics. Hello Ralf, Dorien and Hans. Good to have you with us today.
Hello everybody, nice to be here.
Hello everybody, I'm glad to be here.
Hello, good to meet you.
Hello, welcome again. And let's start by telling our audience a little bit more about your companies and how you approach sustainability and circularity. Ralf, let's start with you and CHT.
Yeah, thank you, Christina. It is my pleasure to introduce CHT to the audience and talk about our experience in regards to circular shift. So CHT is a medium-sized global player for specialty chemistry. We are worldwide active in production, R&D, sales, with a strong technical service. Tübingen is our headquarter of the group, and we are focused on sustainable product and processes. CHT is a foundation-based company, and we work with valuable 2,200 employees. We realize a turnover of 570 million euro in 2019, and we have 27 group companies. So how did we start? We started with our future challenges, and the challenges were the megatrends, are the megatrends. Yeah? Megatrends show changes that affect all of us now and in future. So megatrends provide chances and business opportunities. Megatrends fundamentally change the general social condition, which will influence everyone's life.
Great.
We link the market trend with the 17 Sustainable Development Goals in which the circularity is included. This enables us to develop new business opportunities and support our customers with innovative, sustainable products and process solutions.
Great. Thank you, Ralf, for this introduction to CHT. Hans, could you tell us a little bit more about Ada Cosmetics?
Yeah, I'm consulting for Ada Cosmetics since many years already, and Ada is one of the global leaders in hotel cosmetics. It's a medium-sized company. The headquarters are in southern Germany, close to Strasbourg, and there are manufacturing sites in Kehl, and also in the Czech Republic, and also in Malaysia. So it's a global setup, and we have about 20,000 different clients in the hotel industry. And as you can imagine, it's really challenging times exactly now, because tourism has gone down incredibly. We are not meeting in person right now. We are sitting in front of a camera. And so this tells you something. I would have been in Amsterdam now in a hotel, but this does not happen. So, this is the challenge for everybody. And it's clearly linked to sustainability. And, the company was founded in 1979 on the premises of we need to be sustainable when we deliver products to hotels. And so the founder invented a dispenser system, which is still the biggest selling SKU today, which is, was very forward thinking then. And we're now improving this to get better environmental performance. But that's the core of the company strategy and also sustainability mission. So I'll stop here and tell you more about it later.
Thank you, Hans. And Dorien, what does Mosa do?
Yeah, well, from cosmetics and textile chemicals to ceramic tiles, because Mosa is a manufacturer of ceramic wool and floor tiles. And Maastricht in the south of the Netherlands is our home base since 1883. And when it was decided back in 2007 that the factories and the whole competence center from development up to sales would remain in Maastricht, the board of management also decided to focus on sustainability, because it was their vision already at that time that in the longer run there would be no place in the market anymore for non-sustainable construction materials. So it was an effort to distinguish ourselves from the competition, and also a way to deal with the ever more stringent regulations due to our location in a residential neighborhood and at the edge of the city center. Then we chose for Cradle to Cradle because it's multidisciplinary. It has everything in it, from material health to the social aspects and everything in between, like energy and water. And it has a positive intention, and it also encourages companies to drive innovation. So this year we're celebrating our 10 years of silver certification, and we're hoping to take a next step soon, but more about that later on during our conversation.
Thank you, Dorien. And you three really also show the diversity of our Cradle-to-Cradle certified community. Let's now dive a little bit deeper on your Cradle-to-Cradle certified journeys. And let's start with you, Ralf. So what has recently motivated CHT actually to embark on a Cradle-to-Cradle certified journey, and how have you gone about it?
Okay, it's interesting. So honestly, when we heard it the first time, so we said, oh no, again, an additional eco-label, which we need to fulfill and which costs money. So, but at that time, we haven't looked deep into it. So, and you should know, in the textile industry, we have to fulfill more than 250 different standards. So there is one sustainability, not 250 different ones. That's a big subject to solve for the textile industry. And it would be better to select the best concept, implement it consequently, and then go ahead with this. So when we looked deeper into it, it's a C2C approach, we understood better. And then we also said we need to change our product and processes, from linear to circular wherever possible. Otherwise, we cannot use the full potential of saving resources, water, energy, time, and raw materials. The second part was, if we consider the latest market and consumer requirements, then it is obvious that, for example, the millennials expect sustainable textile articles which are resource efficient. Product parameters like the combination of added value and long life are decisive for their purchase. Brands are focused more and more on recycled and renewable materials. And if you look a little bit back and look to the new collections, which were every 2 weeks in the shops, just produce it, use it, waste it, cannot be the solution. So, and we see a reuse of articles, and the circular approach convinced us more and more. So enough to investigate deeper into this subject, despite it is very challenging for the chemical industry. And of course, it costs money and time, which we need to invest. On the other hand, there is a big potential. And if we would like to be a sustainable company, we have to support this development. And always it starts with the right selection of the raw materials. So, but I will tell you more in some minutes.
Yes, great. And I have even some follow-up question here. So you have really taken a very ambitious approach, so to go to the platinum level of material health certificate. This is really the highest level, of course, we have within our framework. So how has really the work towards platinum material health certificate accelerated innovation at CHT?
First, I would like to say it cannot be the target to achieve the platinum. It's a process, and I would like to show it and explain it with 3 examples, which I prepared for you. So one thing is a case of a dyestuff. So we had a dyestuff, and we found out that in the recipe there is one component which was not highly rated. So, and we thought we need this dyestuff for the whole cradle-to-cradle product range. So what can we do? We discussed very openly with the Cradle-to-Cradle Institute and also with a supplier from which we got this material. So, and then we worked on alternatives, and we did all the trials together with our supplier on the alternatives. And at the end, we found the right component which rate this dyestuff up to a platinum level. So that was a nice success and motivates us to do more. The second example is it was an inspiration of a customer. He wanted to produce T-shirts, most sustainable, and he wanted to print them with biodegradable printing paste, which was not available at that time in the world. So that was another motivation for our developers, and they worked on this not in weeks, in months. It took months. But we came back with the first biodegradable printing paste. It's so-called EcoPrint by CHT, which is a tremendous success. The third one was our own idea in our finishing department to develop the first textile softener from a recycled silicone combined with a renewable emulsifier. That is our Tubingal rice, which fulfills these requirements. And this product fulfills the principle from waste to value. That's really great. And all these new developments and high ratings ended up in our strategy 2025, which I will talk later about it. And this shows the full commitment of CHT to fulfill the 17 development goals of the United Nations.
Thank you, Ralf. Very concrete examples, I think also very actionable for our audience. This is fantastic. And yeah, we will continue our conversation a little bit later. Let's switch now to the cosmetics field and to Hans. And Hans, there are of course also different drivers around sustainability, circularity in the cosmetic space. Could you share a little bit with our audience what were the drivers for other cosmetics to move into the cradle-to-cradle certification? And how have you gone about rolling out, through material health assessments into a full certification of the cosmetic products?
Well, Christina, I have to start a little bit earlier. I'm a biochemist by training, and matters like circularity and planetary health have always played a role in my life. So, when I started to work in industry in the late 80s, circularity thinking was in my mind, of course, but, I couldn't really apply it a lot in my different jobs. But I have to say, I did my first circular economy project in the early 90s, working with IPEA in Hamburg, and I'm connected to Michael Braungart and his thinking since then. So when I started to work at ADA as an external consultant this was 2014, I did not use the word circular economy because it would simply have raised too many eyebrows then. You know, you don't need to be upfront with many things. You can think about them and you can act on the principles, but you don't need to speak out. So I worked with the management and they were really committed to sustainability. That was very clear. And one of the first topics I touched upon was, what about raw material philosophy? So that question was new to them. And so we went through the raw material portfolio and, you know, we cleaned it up. We simply looked what is acceptable in terms of sustainability and circularity without using the word. I have to be very clear about that. And so we moved all the formulation work, and we did not have the other two manufacturing sites then. They only came later. And so this was a principle guided approach to have a clean portfolio. And then, you know, the thinking matured and the commitment was still there. And in 2019, the management decided, let's go for a cradle-to-cradle certification. And that's when it all started. And because we have done all the work on the raw materials, and I'm not talking about packaging yet, because this is now just as we speak coming along, we went into the certification of, you know, practically 99% of the materials that are used in ADA Cosmetics products, at all those three manufacturing sites which are currently active. So it was a journey, and as Ralf just said, you know, you don't think about the final target. You think about the process. How do I get there? And I want to stress the fact that no company can do it alone. You need partners. You need partners in industry, but also in society. This is a true collective approach, and putting the human in the center and the planetary health is key here. And one last sentence: you cannot divide human health and planetary health. They are one. And if you think about them as one, then you are on the right track, and then you will attract a lot of associates who will go the journey together with you.
Thank you, Hans. And yes, it's definitely a journey. And how along the journey has potentially the approach to product development further evolved at ADA Cosmetics by using the cradle-to-cradle principles and the framework?
Well, we have actually raised the consciousness across the company for what it means to be circular. You know, this starts, of course, with the development people, but it goes into the purchasing department, it goes into the logistics and the manufacturing departments, it goes all the way to the salespeople, because, you know, what I always keep telling, if the salespeople who visit the hotels, if they don't really embody this narrative, we only did the half job. So this needs to go through the company. And so circular thinking is now, you know, everywhere in the company, and people know it, and, you know, bringing the impulse forward. And of course, on the development side, you know, there are so many interactions with suppliers and research agencies and so forth. We always look for solutions that are, you know, reducing the footprint, and even going a step further, being regenerative. Because my credo is reducing footprint is okay, but we are globally in a state of emergency, and planetary support systems are breaking down. So what we need to do is to be regenerative, and this way increase health for everybody.
Great, thanks, Hans, and also for pointing out these interlinkages, of course, between human health, environmental subject matters. I think something really important, in particular for the cosmetics industry. And we come back to you a little bit later in this conversation. Dorien, let's now look at tiles, basically. And, Mosa has been in the Cradle-to-Cradle certified community for a very long time. And basically, you have scaled the certification across your entire product portfolio. So could you share a little bit with our audience what were the success factors to scaling and why it is so important to start with material health on the circularity and cradle-to-cradle journey?
Well, first of all, about material health. Yeah, I think that was, is, and will be the basis of the cradle-to-cradle certification. So to put it very simply, if as a manufacturer you did not do your homework on material health, then you can just forget about any certification. So it's very wise to start on that, only from the certification point of view. And then about the scaling, yes, indeed, nearly our complete product portfolios are cradle-to-cradle silver certified. And we started right from the beginning to tackle all the production processes and all the raw materials. Now, in our case, it was also possible because the majority of ingredients for wall tiles and for floor tiles are the same. So base materials are clay and sand and other natural minerals, which are abundantly available in nature. So there was not much, there was a lot of work in getting all the data, etc. But there's not much regarding toxicity in that. However, the final appearance of our products is determined by the pigments and the glazes. And although that's only 1 or 2% of the total product weight, there were the toxic substances. That's where you can traditionally find the lead, the cadmium, and all of that stuff. Vanadium as well, cobalt blue tiles, very beautiful, but yeah, not so not so sustainable. So we started working with our suppliers to ask them to phase out these substances. And what 20 years ago nobody would have believed turned out to be possible, and it is to produce tiles that do not contain these substances. So that requires a constant dialogue, also a knowledge build-up with our own developers and process technology people. And you cannot just do it once and then stop. You have to keep on moving also for new developments, because as you know, all of the ingredients need to be tested individually, and especially for pigments and colorants, the requirements are really, really strict. So that's what we do every time when we develop a new tile collection.
And how has this approach, so the rigor of cradle-to-cradle certified in terms of material health, maybe changed the way you collaborate in the supply chain with your suppliers? Or how do you partner with your suppliers to really achieve this optimization of material health?
Yeah, well, the partnership is based on an open dialogue. So by now, after 12 years, our suppliers know what we need and what we don't want. And it doesn't mean it's always right the first time, but at least there's this open dialogue. And also maybe as a recommendation for other companies considering to work on cradle-to-cradle certification is to try and develop as many product types based on the same set of approved ingredients. So that means sometimes also to stop working with suppliers that cannot or do not want to change to cradle-to-cradle approved ingredients in their materials. Unfortunately, sometimes that's the case. But when you have a solid relationship with the willing and the competent suppliers, then it works very well to take you further on that.
Thanks. Yeah, very, very practical tips. And let's move a little bit further into the practical aspects of the certification. And maybe starting with you, Ralf. It's a very rigorous certification. It is very advanced, and of course, it brings challenges also with it in the implementation. So, Ralf, from the perspective, of your company or the chemical industry, which challenges have you faced when implementing the cradle-to-cradle framework, and how did you overcome them?
Yeah. Okay, Christina. So I gave you some examples. So I would like to bring now your view more on the systematical approach. How did we start? So when we said, okay, let us start, we start with the first product. Yeah. So, and then we got the cradle-to-cradle certificate for one product. But what does this mean? It means at the end, nothing, because it's a single solution. Then a customer came up and say, can you really analyze these two products? Can we buy them from you? And can you really also organize the C2C certificate? We did it, but again, one customer solution. So we cannot really reach and improve the industry itself. So the other thing was also, shall we do it for a product group, in total? Also doesn't make sense. So this could not be the way how we should proceed. Then I brought my management team together and we really sat and discussed what do we need to help the industry in this, let me say, transformation process in regards to more circular economy. And then the result was that we need a cradle-to-cradle product range for the whole textile value chain. This is important that the customer can really, with the example of the t-shirt, produce a t-shirt in total and can also claim the cradle-to-cradle product for his t-shirt at the end. That is what the market is looking for. So, and that means that we have to start with the pre-treatment, with the dyeing, dyes and auxiliaries, with finishing and coating, and with printing. That are exactly the 5 areas which we have defined for our systematic approach. Then in textile, we have many fibers. We have polyester fiber, we have polyamide fibers, we have acrylic fibers, we have cotton fibers, we have the blends out of it. And we said, no, too complex, let us start with one fiber, with the cotton fiber. And that was the start for a systematic cradle-to-cradle approach in CHT. So we defined 120 products which we brought to the institute to test them, and we grouped them and bundled them to the 5 areas we have talked about. So, and the result was that with some work, we could the platinum level really for 5 material health certificates with 88 products. So that is excellent, but we have to rework on the other 32. And that's also the target, that's a process, what was mentioned from Hans and also from Dorien. And if you start a systematic approach, then you are able to offer a solution for the industry and for your customers.
Thank you, Ralf. Really stressing the importance here of the systematic approach, and it seems like a very effective scaling approach you're also driving there at CHT. Hans, looking at other cosmetics, the cosmetics industry, which challenges did you face when rolling out the cradle-to-cradle certification, and what were success factors to overcome these challenges?
That's a key question, of course, and as Dorien said, if you don't have data, you better don't start. So getting data and getting them in a state where they can be accessible to the auditors and everybody is a key success factor to begin with. So when we started, we had data, and even before we thought about going for cradle-to-cradle certification, we knew that we can get through. So that was not the really rubbing point. When we started, we said, let's do an assessment and let's see where this takes us. So, we entered with the knowledge that we are far from being complete, far from being perfect, but we use cradle-to-cradle certification process as a way to improve. And so this, in this group of 3 companies here now, ADA is clearly the newcomer, and we only got our certification in the beginning of this year. So we are still very proud because we are, a leader within the cosmetics industry. Not many have gone, through the difficulties, and it took us months, of course, to screen all the materials and to work with the factories. They have different inventories in the Czech Republic and in Malaysia, and a base commodity chemical in Germany is not the same as in Malaysia. Even if it comes from the same big supplier, it's locally made, and you need to look at contaminants and to look at the material health of each individual ingredient. So, this was really groundwork that our chemists have done. And so data availability is one, and also being aware of the, of the holes in the database. you will be astonished to hear that human health and human safety has been so paramount in the cosmetics industry that lots of environmental data are simply lacking. We saw material safety data sheets where it said no environmental data available. And I was, I'm in the industry for more than 30 years now, and I was amazed that this is still the case today. So all the regulators in Cosmetics Europe, the industry organizations, they are so hooked on human health that all the environmental health issues are only second, in the second line, and that needs to change. So REACH is a great thing and is a leading instrument in Europe, but there is so much work to be done to raise the bar to really prevent degradation of soils and air quality and so forth. And ADA has made a commitment. We want to be part of that change that happens in the industry now. And we will see many, many more cradle-to-cradle certifications also from the cosmetics industry.
Thank you, Hans, for this perspective. And Dorien, I mean, you have been on the journey for such a long time with Cradle to Cradle certified. Any challenges you're still facing there, or that you have faced along the journey, and how did you tackle them?
Yeah, there's no limit to the challenges, I would say. They keep coming. Also because Cradle to Cradle is a science-based standard, so with the proceeding scientific insights, it can be that the requirements are changing. So sometimes an ingredient that was approved is not automatically improved in the next version of the Cradle-to-Cradle standard, which is understandable from a scientific point of view, which is also good, because that means that Cradle-to-Cradle is really at the forefront of sustainability developments. However, to explain that to a product designer who wants to make a beautiful tile, or to a developer, is not always easy for a sustainability manager like me. That's one. Secondly, the quality of data, as mentioned by Hans, is also really, it's very recognizable that the data sheets of suppliers are not always very truthful. So the leaching tests that we do for our substances sometimes lead to interesting discoveries, which can then be discussed and sometimes lead to an improvement in the data sheets. And the third thing I wanted to mention is energy. That is for us really a challenge, because we are in a material transformation process. We really start with the raw clays and the sand, and a tile comes out of our factory. In between, a lot happens to the materials, and key is the process in the kilns at 11 or 1200 degrees Celsius. Now, the fuels we need for that are still to a large extent natural gas, which is the most efficient fossil fuel, but still a fossil fuel. We also have electricity, which is easier because we only use green electricity. But to make the energy transition with the natural gas and you find a substitute for that, that's really not so easy. And unlike the material challenges, we cannot solve that just in a dialogue with our suppliers. We need the energy companies, we need the politicians. And here the Netherlands is not always the fastest moving country, I would say. So that is and will remain a challenge for some time to come.
Thanks, Dorien, and for also pointing out that some of the challenges really require collective action and really systemic changes in order to be solved for the long term. If we now look a little bit at the broader picture and thinking about strategies and changing, let's say maybe also of business processes, let's look a little bit at your individual strategies and approaches. And Ralf, what is CHT, or how does a CHT's circularity strategy look like? What are you planning for the years to come? And which role does the Material Health Certificate of the Cradle to Cradle Products Innovation Institute play in it?
Yeah, let me look a little bit in a wider scope. Yeah, so CHT target is to expand our business with top sustainable products, which protect human health and the environment, and of course, which fulfills the cradle-to-cradle requirements. Yeah. We said before, it starts all with the raw materials, and Dorien said that we need reliable partners, and that was also an activity which we started 6 years ago, yeah, when we had a systematic approach to eliminate critical raw materials. We screened all our raw materials and substituted the critical ones accordingly. So we did it quite well because we won in 2018 the Responsible Care Award for this sustainability project. That was something as a start, yeah, so to select the right raw materials, and then you can think about the cradle-to-cradle or the circular economy, yeah, which helps if you have a base of the right raw materials. So for the strategy 2025, we are focusing on 6 targets. CHT product portfolio, we would like to do in 2025, 80% of our sales with the eco range. Yeah, the second topic is we can make the customer process better with our products, with our textile effects, and with our packages to improve the sustainability of our customers' processes. So then EcoVadis certification, we would like to have a higher rating. We have achieved the silver rating. We would like to get the next step. And of course, we would do the reduction of CO2 to improve the climate. And we have internal CHT processes clearly defined in the strategy, yeah, to save in all the 27 companies to save water, energy, and reduce waste substantially. The sixth topic is the circular economy. So we would like to increase the consumption, yeah, of recycled raw materials. We would like to increase cradle-to-cradle certified products and biodegradable products. Yeah, and we would like to enlarge the PET recycling part in which we are active. That's the bottles which we can really recycle from bottle to bottle or from bottle to fiber. And coming and link it to the material health certificates, it's clear if we can do it in a way that we get an official third-party certificate that helps to communicate this to customers and to the industry. And we hope, of course, that the customer is then more convinced to buy these good chemicals from us.
Thank you, Ralf. Quite some ambition ahead for CHT. Hans, what is your vision in terms of circularity and cradle-to-cradle for other cosmetics? And on a bigger scale, how does the cosmetics industry need to evolve in terms of those topics in the coming years?
Well, there are 2 major areas, of course, and Ada tackled the product level quite successfully. But as you can see from what's happening in the market, packaging is the big topic for all of the cosmetics companies, whether they are traditional in the organic and natural cosmetics sector, or whether they are more the mass players. They all have the same challenge of making packaging or acquiring packaging that is fully recyclable. And so I can't even tell you about all the initiatives that are underway, and industry consortiums have been created to tackle that. Now, when it comes to ADA, we have one very big advantage if we compare ourselves to the Beiersdorfs of the world. We know exactly where our packs go to. We know the hotels and the big hotel chains. So we have started a project actually getting back what we sold to them. The empty containers we are going to recover and feed them back into the supply industry for blow molding new bottles. So that's an easy task, when you sit at your desk. but you need to think through the whole logistics of it, and also the quality aspects. You need to clean the material still, but you have mono materials, and that's something we will certainly build upon in the future, and make good progress in the very short future. So those are the two things. And looping back to the ingredients, we know that we have some work to do eliminating some substances that we don't want to see in the products, and move up the scale, from a bronze rating to a silver and gold rating. And, for some products, we already would be at platinum, but, because we have a total portfolio, which we got certified, the weakest element in the chain determines the overall rating. So, the whole team knows what the challenge is, and, this liberates energy, and, the vision is a long-term one. And you can only be a leader if the narrative that you tell the public and the hotel guests is really conclusive. Everybody will spot if there are holes in the story.
Thank you, Hans. Yes, I think this credibility aspect and the trust, that's really quite important in the circularity journey as well. Dorien, what's ahead for Mosa in terms of certification, and particular performance level of the certification, and how is this linked to your sustainable business strategy?
Mm-hmm. Well, interesting question. So Mosa has recently redefined the strategy, and it's now in the strategy that we will provide signature service solutions. And already that has the word solutions in it. So that means we want to develop from a tile manufacturer to a provider of solutions. So that means we need to start thinking in systems. And I heard Ralf say that, and also Hans, by the way, that sometimes it's the customers who challenge you as a company. And that's currently what's happening at Mosa as well, because the most frequently asked questions to us all are about circularity. And then not circularity of the tile, because that is all okay, but circularity of the system. So the tile in its application on a wall, a floor, or a facade. For a facade system, it's easy, that's mechanically fixed, but a traditional tile is connected by the wall or floor through adhesive. So that's one of the things we need to work on. And we have taken that as part of our cradle-to-cradle ambition, and that is that we would like to go to the next level. So to go to cradle-to-cradle gold, also for our complete product portfolio. So that gives us 3 challenges. First of all is circular sourcing. So that means looking again at our ingredients. How can we work with more secondary materials, or how can other industries use our secondary materials in an upcycling way? Secondly, circular design. That's about reversible tiling. So how can tiles be removed quickly in an easy and clean way from a wall or a floor for use in a second life, or for recycling and go back to raw material for new tiles? And thirdly, if we have solved those 2 technical challenges, it's all about circular systems. So thinking about new business models, and everybody's talking about leasing nowadays in our industry. We don't know whether that's really the best solution, but something around take back and reuse. So circular sourcing, design and systems, that's all part of our cradle-to-cradle gold challenge, which is now being worked on as we speak at Mosa.
Great, thank you, Dorien. That was a very insightful and I think also very practical discussion with a lot to take away for our audience. And as we conclude our discussion, what would be really your key messages or your point of action for the audience or for the wider sector at large to keep in mind when moving into a circular future? Ralf, what's your thought on that?
Okay, I have 3 key takeaways for the audience. The first one is our experience. it is a journey. Yeah, it is not a one-step activity. It's a journey which takes time to implement it. Yeah, so but do not forget, with the first step, you improve your products and you make it more sustainable, and with it also your customer who buys this product. So it's worth to do it. The second takeaway is our recommendation. It is to select a strong partner by your side, which fulfills your requirements and exactly the items which you need. The third takeaway is our invitation. You saw that CHT has good chemistry combined with the right expertise. We are just at the beginning. To achieve some platinum judgments is good, but not good enough. We have enough more to do, which we will do. But why shall we not do it together? So I would like to invite out of the audience and every textile player who is interested in the circular economy to start projects with us and work concrete on these items. And maybe we have the chance to make and to bring your articles a specific added value, and so that you also get a nice rating in the material health certificate. So there is always something to do to make the world a little better. Everybody can contribute to it. So let us be so responsible. Thank you for your attention. Take care, and I wish you good health.
Thank you, Ralf. Hans, your call to action for the cosmetics industry.
Well, not just for the cosmetics industry, for industry overall globally. I think there's such a huge responsibility to change the system, how we operate what we call the economy, and every single company can be part of that change. So, my view is that we don't need to look, to the politicians to change things. Yes, the rules need to be changed and the standards, but industry is really in the driving seat, and doing that within an environment, a natural environment, and also within society. So, you cannot detach all the material health assessments from, as I said in the beginning, from the view on the planetary health. So we have seen so many examples where, the products directly impact either the recyclability or human health and so forth. And that's all interconnected. So keeping that in mind and holding that vision that we are not, as industries, operating in isolation, but we are connected to all living systems. We are not in a bubble. We are connected to all living systems. And by living, I also mean the mineral world. Tiles rely on base metals and salts and minerals and so forth. That's all part of the system. And I'm glad that Dorien mentioned the systemic thinking. So that's the vision that the companies and ADA is on the way to that, adopt the systemic thinking, and the cradle to cradle certification is a major building block toward putting it into practice. You need to have data, you need to measure it, but if you don't hold the greater vision and also be able to talk about that, it will not pull people in or draw people in who want to work with you. So that's certainly my driver for my work and makes me tick. And I tend to be infectious to other people. So that's what I like to do. So thanks very much for the opportunity to talk about that.
Thanks, Hans, and really for sharing, for all of you, for sharing your passion here for the subject matter. Dorien, your key messages for our audience today.
Well, I have in fact the 4 Ps, and not the 4 Ps of marketing, but the 4 Ps of cradle to cradle. First of all, don't try to be perfect at once, because that will not work. It's like Ralf said, it's a journey. And you don't need to be perfect. You need to take one step at a time. Secondly, be patient, stay calm, move on. Be persistent, don't give up in difficult times, and most of all, stay positive, and then it will work. So thank you for the interesting discussion, and all the best from Maastricht.
Thank you, Ralf, Hans, Dorien, for this very valuable discussion and sharing your perspectives with us today. We appreciate for you and also our audience that you have made time and joined us for the conversation today. The Circular Shift 2020 series continues next week with a session focused on supply chain collaboration, innovating for resilience. I hope to see you then again live from Amsterdam. And if you have any questions meanwhile, please feel free to always get in contact with us through our Circular Shift website. See you next week. Goodbye for now.